I'm going to remove the wheel with a 21mm socket. Hello, today we're going to change the wheel bearing on a 2008 Ford F150 rear wheel drive. On the back of the caliper, I'm going to find the caliper mounting bolts. You got an 18mm here, and then down here you got another 18mm down here. I'm going to take those two off, remove the caliper. And once you break it free, you can use a ratchet. I'm using a half drive ratchet to get these caliper mounting bolts off. Use an old coat hanger, just get the caliper out of the way. Don't kink the lines. Let's get back to work. You can hear that wheel bearing growling. I could hear it when I turned. That's how I knew it was bad. Now we're going to take off the cotter pin. So you're just going to take off the old cotter pin. Just bend it out straight. Just pull it free. Now I'm going to take off this axle nut. It's a one-time use. I've got a new one. Here's a new spindle nut I'm using. Well, I broke the 1/2-inch drive breaker bar. Now we got the 3/4-inch breaker bar. Well, it broke the adapter. Alright, we got it off. We got to use a 1 3/8 socket, hammer it onto the nut, hammer it on the axle nut, and then we use the 3/4-inch drive breaker bar with a long metal pipe for leverage. We had to use a long metal pipe. We heated up the nut with propane. We did everything to get this thing off. It was a bear. So got it off. So after hours of fighting this thing, because the bearings were wore out, exploded, it was jammed, couldn't get it off, but there it is. Got it off. Used a pry bar from the back side, in between there and here, pried it, and used a screwdriver. And just yanked on it, put this in there, and used two together. Put one in here, one in there. Just worked it out for hours. We got it. Alright, we're gonna take off the spindle, replace this. It's destroyed from the bad wheel bearing. We're gonna take off this 21mm right here. Take off this 21mm. And then we're going to take off the 24mm down here. Alright, this one's off. Gonna get a little bit on. Hit right here. Hitting it right here. And you can see it popped up. Got that one loose. You can see it came loose here. I just gotta take this bottom one. Take the ABS sensor off. 8mm. Pull out the sensor. Just tuck it back here for now. Out of the way. Now we're going to remove these with the 8mm. Three, heated up the nut, propane. That's coming off. Put a vice grip on the bottom of the ball joint. And that's coming off. Got this lower nut off. Get the lower nut off. Tie rod in, nut off. And then we'll take the top off. Old one's out. Here's the refurbished one we're gonna put back in. I got the new one set up. Just gotta put everything back together. Alright, we're gonna tighten the upper ball joint nut, 21mm to 85 foot-pounds of torque. Tighten the tie rod nut to 85 foot-pounds of torque. The lower ball joint is the 24mm. It's going to be 111 pounds of torque. That's what I'm going to just find the correct torque specs for your vehicle. This is just what I use for mine. Tighten down these 8mm. Put the ABS sensor back in. That's going to be an 8mm. Turn down the 8mm. Clean off all the dirt. Got the new axle nut. So the axle nut, I've read, is supposed to be 295 foot-pounds of torque. Actually had to go out and get a special torque wrench because I only had one that goes to 150. So let's get this tightened up. You can hear it click. I need 2 hands to do it, but you heard it click at 3. You heard it click at 295. Put the retainer on. So we're gonna spin it until we find one that lines up. There we go. That lines up. The new cotter pin in. Alright, I took out the two 12mm bolts on the caliper because I don't have a tool to spread the pads out to get back over the new rotor. So we're going to take it apart to get it back together. So I flipped the pad over. I've got this tool to compress the piston back. I'm going to compress it back. Put the caliper bracket back on. The caliper bolts back on, 18mm. Tighten up the caliper bolts, torque them to 148 from what I read online, but look up the right specification for your truck. And up the 18mm to 148 foot-pounds of torque. Put it back together, the caliper back on. Tighten down the top and bottom 12mm caliper bolt. Make sure your ABS cable, brake hose, everything's looks good, not kinked up. Make sure you remove all the stuff that you use to hang up your caliper. Looks like we're good to go. Everything's finished. New hub. After waiting for days to get that spindle, finally got it put back together. Hope this video helped you out. Thanks for watching.